Hello? Beep, 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 beep. Welcome to the court of the Edijester. How are we, good peeps? Ha! It's been an eventful few days. I emerged from Manchester Council yet? Oh. I don't know why. Yeah, I do. What have I got here on my little phone? Things pass me by occasionally, and this is one of them. Right, become a warrior teacher, the usual. Buy me a coffee, but like, subscribe. That's the thing. Like, subscribe, notifications. That helps the old algorithms to get the message out there. So this comes from Christina Buttons from her site, Buttons Lives, buttonslives.com. And it's a particularly interesting one, but it did pass me by because it came out on April the 11th. So I miss stuff, all right? Can you be understanding? We all miss stuff. So Christina does quite a lot of work in the field. She's good, right? Okay. And she highlights stuff that's worth having a look at and worth understanding. And this is another example of that. So this is worth engaging with in terms of the article, which the links to are in the dupers as usual. So what has Buttons got for us today? New systematic review exposes deceptive practices among medical organisations that endorse youth transition. So this is off the back of Cass. Not literally. Bend over head, we're going to hit you with a ball. Not literally, right? But rather than relying on robust evidence, these authoritative medical bodies created a misleading consensus by deferring to each other's guidelines through circular referencing. Now, we discussed this on the Warrior Teacher Programme, when we talk about the replication crisis in the social sciences and what's happening there and anti-science and pseudoscience. So we discussed this in year 2. And it's really interesting. I call it academic circle jerking, right? Christina's a little bit more polite than I. What it says is that the International Guidelines for Children and Adolescents with Gender Dysphoria has exposed deceptive practices, this is through Cass, by respected medical authorities who recommend medical transition for minors. These guidelines are often cited as uncontroversial and scientifically robust. However, the review reveals that these organisations have misled the public by basing their recommendations on insufficient evidence and inaccurately labelling their approach as evidence-based. So you get the idea. Now, this is the same, what Christina's talking about here, the same as we see in critical race theory, all those, critical fat studies, critical headaches, all that nonsense, all that academic bum effluent, right? Academic bum gravy. It's the same thing as we see. They start by getting a group of people together who are just power and oppression nutters, right? And then academic power and oppression nutters will say, well, the importance of critical race theory. Oh, shut up. Them, right? And then they start referencing each other. So they build up like a network of backslapping twats, right? Who give them some kind of academic shine. Similarly, again, exposed by the Sokal hoax of the 90s and Lindsay Pluckrose and Boghossian in the brilliant Grievance Studies affair. So, yeah, they've got form for this. Now, I call it academic circle jerking. Christine, being a far more polite individual than I, calls it circular referencing. I have to say, that's much more polite, but I prefer my name for it. Instead of conducting independent evaluations, they've relied on endorsement of sex trait modification for minors from other medical bodies, artificially creating a consensus on this issue. You get it? A consensus on this issue. So they, until there's enough of them, then everybody starts to feel like it's a consensus. Oh, the science is settled. It's that kind of thing, right? Instead of going, hang on a minute, what's going on here? Commissioned by NHS England and chaired by Dr. Hilary Cass, the University of York's research team evaluated 23 international guidelines using the appraisal of guidelines for research and evaluation tool to assess their quality. The study specifically examined how evidence-informed recommendations, the development and agreement processes for these recommendations, the stakeholders involved, and how the guidelines referenced each other during their development. Do you get this? I hope so, because this is great, isn't it? The findings of the review were deeply concerning. This is the Cass review. It concluded that clinical guidelines globally used to treat gender questioning children and adolescents were crafted in violation of international standards for guideline development. This is just insane. This should be a crime. This should be a crime. It really should. These guidelines recommend medical interventions for minors despite insufficient evidence, particularly regarding the long-term treatment outcomes in adolescents. Additionally, they relied on other guidelines that recommended medical treatments as a basis for making similar recommendations. This guideline says it, so that guideline says it, that guideline says it. They've been allowed to operate in a kind of academic vacuum, which then brings into question the culpability of the academic bureaucracy that allowed them to do so, and then the academic leaders who either did not know, knew and agreed, or turned a blind eye. Is it me, or is it time for a touch of the Watergates? What would we call it? Transgate. I am not a crook. No, you're not a woman either, mate. Transgate? What about that? Call it Transgate. And get some investigations going. What we need now is a Woodward and Bernstein to start peering up the bumholes of all these people and find out exactly what they have been doing. I know some good journalists are going to get on this at some point, and we've got brilliant journalists anyway, but some good ones are going to, when they get right to the top, and like suddenly you can pick a name at the top of the NHS, like, I don't know, Dr. Michael Brady, who might be the one. Perhaps he's one. Has he been involved in this academic circle jerking, have you, Michael? Michael? The Endocrine Society and the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, WPATH, who we know was recently outed as nonsense merchants with the WPATH files from Michael Schellenberg, published initial guidelines recommending youth medical transition in 2009 and 2012. Respectively, these guidelines became foundational for many subsequent guidelines, shaping their content and recommendations despite the lack of evidence and rigour. In the Cass review, Dr. Hilary Cass highlighted the ways in which WPATH and the Endocrine Society were closely interlinked, noting their mutual co-sponsorship and input into each other's drafts. So that's not an academic circle jerk, right? That's like mutual masturbation with a good friend. It's terrible, I shouldn't laugh. The corruption persisted in the formulation of national and regional guidelines by prominent organisations such as American Psychological Association, the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, and the American Academy of Paediatrics, and the Society for Health and Medicine. That's like the two people that are having a bit of the old mutual masturbation. So suddenly a knock on the door and in come 15 more and go, what are you up to? Oh yeah, we'll join you. All whipping their grievance knobs out and slapping them against each other's thighs. Right, it also extended to international guidelines from Australia, Spain, Italy. Well, these are the people that zoomed in. Right, enter. Yeah, you all ready? Right, go. Get your offence knobs out. Start slapping them on each other's face. Go, that's a big one. Put some spectacles on it. It's just terrible. All these different people getting together. Years later, when WPATH and the Endocrine Society updated the guidelines, they referenced the same national and regional guidelines that had initially drawn from their recommendations. It's like the human centipede, but with social sciences. They're all eating each other's shit. It's just awful. This perpetuated a cycle in which each iteration reinforced the others, each time without sufficient evidence to support the recommendations. Dr. Cass highlighted the problematic nature of the circular reference in stating the circularity of this approach may explain why there has been an apparent consensus on key areas of practice despite the evidence being poor. She's so polite. The circularity of this approach may explain why there has been an apparent consensus on key areas of practice despite the evidence being poor. Instead of saying, okay, right, it smells in here, but put them away. Hilary, we think you're wonderful. There's a lot more to this article from Christine Buttons, and it's a real good one. So go and have a look and get your head around it, because this goes some way to explaining how these academic tosspots have been able to get away with tossing each other off for the last God knows how long, and pretending that they're producing something of worth, rather than leaving, millions of unborn children on the carpet. I shouldn't laugh, but I am. Go and have a look. Oh, and there's pictures too. The pictures are really good. So go and have a look and see what Christine's done. And I'll see you later. Go and have a good time. Come be more a teacher. I need you. All right, I'll see you later. Bye.